Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast, brought to you in partnership with Bruce.
But joy.
Yes, it is.
Well done. Feel the joy.
Feel the joy indeed. I am Tom Mills, and today I'm brought to you by Bruce Fitzpatrick
Good evening.
and Sam Williams.
Thomas, Bruce, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast with you boys, and it feels like we haven't done this in ages. How are we all?
Yeah, very good. Very good. We've had a nice, it feels like podding almost goes in like bit of fits and starts for us, doesn't it? We'll almost build up a few in the can, and then you come back on, you're like, oh, I feel a bit rusty. Don't know why.
Well, I think a lot of people who have listened said, I don't know what they're talking about. They just did a two-parter on Wales, like literally came out like 4 days ago. But that was, we recorded that about 3 weeks ago, did we?
Yeah, it's nice dropping 2 episodes in a week because it's hard getting through a week without listening to us talk about golf. I know our listeners will be struggling to get through the week after Tuesday morning. Everything's downhill from there once they've consumed that on the way to work. So that second part of the Welsh Tour pod will have been a nice accompaniment. And our listeners will also be delighted, Thomas, to learn that we've got a little bonus episode dropping this Friday. I had a lot of fun talking to Richard Fisher last week. Who
is Richard Fisher?
So
fill us in.
So Richard is the club archivist for Harlech. I had about a 20-minute phone conversation with him before we went to Wales, and he just gave so much like contextual information on the course. I was like, this is obscene. So I sort of thought this would be just a great little course diaries pod. And he is excellent. I mean, he is a historian. You know, I should make that clear. Like that is his profession. But good historians just have a really good way of telling a story. It's like the two seem to go hand in hand. I mean, Bruce, you studied it, didn't you? I'm guessing you probably noticed the same, really. He was just excellent fun to listen to.
Yeah, I'd sort of not properly met or been introduced to Richard, but know him through a friend of the pod, David Normoyle, who obviously, you know, is another absolutely fantastic historian of the game. And yeah, it's just a rare thing, isn't it? Blending that like genuine sort of professional expertise in a discipline like history with golf. Yeah, just the sort of, as you say there, the way that you can bring together all this like rich information into brilliant anecdotes as well at the same time. So it's yeah, I was very sad to miss out on that Welsh tour, but the day that you spent at Harlech and all of the fun you had there in particular is yeah, something I feel like I need to get over there very, very quickly and see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, it's great. Well, anyway, if people are listening to this today, I say today, if they're listening to it tomorrow, because it'll be released Tuesday, the 7th of May, we'll be dropping our film from Harlech. And if you're listening to it thereafter, you can look forward to our next film, which will be Porth and Innislas, as the Welsh series continues. But anyway, what's news, gentlemen? What have we got on the menu for today?
Well, on the to-do list, I suppose, would be to, you've been up at Lytham. You're following the Lytham Trophy, which I think it'd be good to get a really sort of top-down view of what the Lytham Trophy is, for anyone that's unaware of the Lytham Trophy, and then everything that sort of happened in the Lytham final day that you walked around with. We've got obviously Scotty Scheffler doing amazing, which was a couple of weeks back, and we've got Nelly Corder just to discuss because we haven't touched on it yet, seriously, and what Nelly has done in the last 6-7 weeks has been absolutely breathtaking. But before we get there, I'd say the biggest news coming out of the golfing world right now would be the Saturday medal at Blackwell.
By Bigwood medal. Yeah, it was pretty huge, isn't it?
I mean, it's news resonating around the world. I mean, CNN, Sky Sports News, all of it, just like yellow banners were coming up all over. I was getting like, you know, when we were in Augusta and we were getting those tornado like alerts that are forced through onto your phone. It's
Phone's
like
coming off.
Sam Williams has won the Guy Bigwood medal at Blackwell.
The Guy Bigwood trophy is a big one. It's like our sort of spring medal, isn't it? Really, there's quite a few things that you get on the menu for, but yes, I I won't. But there was a good bit of context to this, and it's nice. Bruce's.
What's the menu? What's the menu?
Well, the menu at the annual dinner, because there's no real honours boards at Blackwell, are there? It's a bit of a strange thing. There's essentially an honours board for presidents and captains, and then an unrelated club event called the Tweddle Clique, which
Not
is
a club event actually. That's
tournament.
just.
I did say it's not a club event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complete, not a non-club event, non-related non-club event. So the only way that people winning things kind of gets recognised is just on the back of the menu at dinner, which is, I think that's particularly Blackwell. But Tom, it's interesting because, I fixed that game that morning on Saturday. I had absolutely no game when I woke up on Saturday morning because Bruce had rang me. I was due to play with him at about 9:30 that morning. And he said, I've just finished my sort of scratch knockout match. It went to 19th hole. I'm a bit cold. I'm a bit wet. My dad wants to play later in the afternoon as well. He's quite keen to join us. Can you play in the afternoon? I said, absolutely not. I'm going to Lytham to see the in-laws, as we will go on to. And I thought, okay, well, it's not the end of the world, Bruce. I'll just head up to the club and I'll just get a game in the morning, which is lovely. I played with a chap called Ashley. Had a lovely day with him. Sort of scrapped it round in about 70 or so. And I thought, well, I don't know, it's okay. But it was leader in the clubhouse. And then I sort of then went on my merry way about lunchtime and thought, well, half the field's out there. They're guaranteed to beat that. And how wrong I was.
I feel like we should say it was net 70. When you scrapped it around in 70,
net 70.
I feel like I think we should just clarify. I scrapped
it was
it
a
around
net
in
tournament.
70.
We should be hyper clear about that.
But
then I got a
name
text,
trophy.
yeah.
It is a big, it is the big, big first sort of name trophy for an individual in the season, as you rightly point out, Sam. I do feel like, in my defence, I just need to add a bit of extra colour on me.
Please do, Bruce. Please do.
Colour it in.
Well, I'd taken half a day of annual leave on Friday afternoon to try and play my scratch knockout, which we are rapidly approaching the deadline. And so we were looking to fix it up. And obviously, after a really nice week of sunny weather, when you fix some golf on an afternoon when you take an annual leave, just so happens, doesn't it, that it starts to tip it down. So I was looking at trying to rearrange that, but my oppo very sensibly said, look, we've got some pretty busy diaries coming up. I think we need to just press on and play it. So we did. Teed off closer to 5 p.m. I mean, we were struggling for light anyway, but when you're sort of going out playing in the pea suit, and you're a bit cold and wet, and we actually went to the 19th hole, as you pointed out there, Sam. When I got back in and I was absolutely wet through, and it's sort of 10 o'clock by the time I'd got home, started drying things out and managed to get a bit of dinner. I did pick up the phone, as you rightly mentioned. It wouldn't have been after 10 actually, because I wouldn't have called you at such a late hour. That would have been completely uncouth. But anyway, by the by, I did give you a call and say, is there any chance of us just nudging that time back slightly later, which I felt I was within my rights to do.
No, you were, absolutely. And then I said, look, no, I can't. And you said, oh, sorry, mate. That's fine. You're cold. You need a lie-in. You're a working man. You've got to be rested. You're coming off about shingles. You've had a lot going on.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, which is slightly worrying at the tender age of 28.
But
we do have a wonderful tradition at Blackwell. Let's mention it though, that we never leave a man in the bar, and so there's some comfort in that. As you rightly pointed out there, if you fix up a game or you pitch up to Blackwell for a game on a Saturday morning, you are going to be able to get out and play a two ball, because there's going to be like-minded people in that same situation.
Yeah, totally. I was never worried, but I just thought it was quite amusing. I saw you as I was going to the 15th tee. You were coming off the third green, and then I sort of got the news from another member, said, "Oh, well done, Sam. Looks like you've won. I just watched Bruce double the last." So you shot 71 net 70. I beat you on a count back. So you would have been 1 under going down 18.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I made the most rasping of fours. I mean, there should have been a full steward's inquiry into my 4 on 18. I tell you, it was absolutely heinous. And somehow got into the clubhouse with a net 70. And I just thought karma's a bitch. I just thought that double bogey. I thought, if you ever thought karma didn't exist, there it was right there.
That was very good proof indeed. Well, yeah, I can't really add all that much to that.
Guilty as charged?
Yeah, no. I mean, and it's not like you were very, very quick to remind me of that as well. I did WhatsApp you very soon after finishing. I saw that your name was above mine on the leaderboard. The countback had already been pre-programmed by How Did I Do Club V1, which is a really cumbersome system, actually. I don't know if you noticed this. They've introduced an update where you sign into Club V1, so you put your name in. What do you want to do? Okay, competition entry, click that. Guy Bigwood, click that. And then it says who's marking for you. So you click your marker's name, and then it comes up with a bizarre new option, which I don't know if anyone can explain this to me. The new option is, Mills, do you know what it is?
Whose score are you inputting? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
Which you've already had to sign in as Bruce's Patrick, who's marking your card, whoever. And it's like, okay, now whose score would you like to input?
So you're going through this, and it's like, yeah. So I'm going through this, and it's like, you're reliving your round, aren't you? You're like going through it all, and I'm like, oh, this is actually quite a steady round of golf for me. Get to the last, fizzle out a little bit. Oh, 6.
What happened at the last, Bruce?
Wait, well, we'll get there. Wait. I sort of wait 20 or 30 seconds for it to refresh, pops up the leaderboard, and there it is. S. Williams, net 70 in first place. And I'm sort of second or third, I think I was in a net 70. I thought, yeah, there we go. So I did then WhatsApp you shortly after. I said, well done, Sammy. Obviously a good round. Still leader in the clubhouse. Hope you're having a good drive up to Lytham. To which you came back. I don't know if you remember this. It's a couple of days ago now. You came back and said, did you on count back then, didn't I? Nice. and then a few hours, I was like, yeah, that's good. Well done. And then a few hours later, you just came back with doubled the last ? Which I thought was just very sporting behaviour that I probably deserved. As you mentioned, Karma is a bit of a bitch. But there you have it, you know.
You must have had a good round going. 1 under, still on the 18th.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about it, actually. I just kind of, I don't know, I was just sort of
Flow
going
state.
around. Yeah, it was weird for me. I sort of like to think that I have, in a round of golf, I'll have some, moments of utter despair and just, blazing it all over the place. And then the odd moment of sort of, I don't know, inspiration, a little bit of magic in there. And typically there's more moments of despair than there are moments of magic. And it evens out with a sort of middling round of, mid-70s or whatever it was. But weirdly, I just had like 1 bogey, 2 birdies, and then got to the 18th and hit the wrong club and got plugged in the lip of the bunker and then chipped it up into the clubhouse wall and didn't get down from there. So yeah, it was just one of those, it's like fine margins, isn't it? But it was good to be back. I don't know. That's the first round of the year for me with card in hand. And it was just, I don't know, it's just nice to get out on a sunny day. Course obviously coming on, it's in great shape, isn't it? As a lot of places are now with the better weather, and just to feel excited about it again.
You might have doubled the last, Bruce, but I think I must have the smallest violin going because I had a 5-putt.
Right. Okay.
Talk us through that. I 5-putt the 5th. Now, for those, I won't go too much detail because people that don't know Blackwell
or have any interest in their own medal performances, for that matter.
I mean, they obviously care about Sam's, but now we're on to mine. We'll just move on quickly. But anyway, I had a 5-putt, so yeah, life was sad for me.
Well, we'll just put a little footnote in here. There, we have had a new course manager start, who's a really exciting time for Blackwell. But it's sort of a bit of a virgin competition for him to set the course up for, and some pins in places I've never seen, to be honest. That one on 5th was borderline greenkeeper's revenge stuff. I putted off the green. Yeah. Bruce, you putted off the green. Tom, I'm assuming within the 5
Did you putt off the green, Bruce?
Yeah, we both did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I'm guessing you also putted off with one of those 5 putts at some point on that hole.
I was 12 foot away. I had a 12-foot birdie putt, and then 5-putt from there. Just put it past the hole and then putt off the green.
So talk us through this
back on.
So hang on. So you had a 12. Sorry, this has all gone too quick for me. This has all gone too quick.
So right. Okay. To put some color on this. It's got like a two tier green at Blackwell. It's kind of the 5th is you've got a bottom tier and a top tier, but through the sort of front to back spine of this green, which is 2-tier, higher tier in the back, lower tier in the front. Basically, the whole of the right spine of the green drops off to the right. So this pin was on the top tier, kind of the right of the spine, really. So I was kind of looking at 12, maybe 13, 14 foot. It wasn't much more than that. At birdie.
Up the hill, or sorry, that was
them.
coming from the left.
So I'm on top of the hill, so I'm on the highest part of the green.
Yeah.
I putt down towards it. It goes past the hole, but as soon as it's past the hole, it's gone.
Yeah.
So it goes off the green into the rough. I then putt back up. It goes 3/4 of the way up the hill, stops, comes back down to my feet.
That's 2.
So now I'm two putts still off the green. Hammer it up past, then tickle one down, tap it in.
It's quite a good 2-putt in fairness then, once you're 10 feet past the flag after 3 putts, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like, look, I hold no begrudging of anything, because we all play on the same pitch, like everyone else got through it. So it's my own fault, extreme ownership. But yeah, 5 putts, sad day for Tom.
Sam,
I think that's my record putts on any hole ever.
4 happens, I think, more often than people actually care to admit, because you can rack up a 4 putt. 5,
How many did Els rack up at the Masters? It was 6 or 7, didn't he?
It was 7 or 8, I think. Can I just clarify? Did we all degreen the putt on the 5th?
Comfortably.
Yeah.
Comfortably. Yeah. I was in acceptance of my outcome before I'd even hit the putt. I was like, well, this is either going to be halfway there and then I'm going to 3-putt it, or I'll just get it over and done with now.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see a pin there again. Anyway, let's not bury our new course manager's career before it started.
Sammy, any other moments of note from your round worth sort of remarking on? Obviously you've come home with silverware, so.
No, I mean, it was a disgusting array of sort of like, scrappy pars coming home.
Did you hang around to buy people drinks, or did you do drinks by proxy?
Generally a bad winner. Yeah, it was all told. I was gone and I was halfway up the M6. So
I'm surprised that we're getting so
excellent.
I'm surprised we're getting so little out of you. For the man who likes to talk about his own golf more than anyone on this podcast, you're being remarkably humble in victory.
I was a bit disappointed with. I was disappointed with how I hit it to win. To be honest with you, I thought it sounds like you hit the ball far better than me in all truthfulness. But I did make a few nice birdies, and they do sharpen up the scorecard, don't they? And I think I did sort of I dug out 4 quite good pars at the end, to be fair, to get in. But yeah. Well, we're on to the next, and it's nice to get on the menu anyway. Shall we move on to the Lytham Trophy, gentlemen? I'm sure our listeners can't hear more than 20 minutes of my golf, as much as I try on this.
So you won a major at Blackwell, and you jumped straight in the car up to Lytham to see the in-laws.
Yeah,
and they live in Lytham, which happens to be really sort of coincidental, because the Lytham Trophy was on. Now,
it was a coincidence.
Sam, what is the Lytham Trophy?
So the Lytham Trophy was founded in the 1960s. It's actually founded by the club. The club just felt there was space for a really good 72-hole stroke play amateur tournament. I think they got some support from clubs and wrote around. I think the golf unions of England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, etc., all sort of supported it, backed it, sent players in. I mean, you just couldn't do that now, could you? Just sort of say, we're just going to get this off the ground. And Banalek won the first one. And, I think from since then, really, it's always been a really big amateur event in the golfing calendar. So, you've kind of got some pretty famous winners from yesteryear. I think Banalek's won it twice. Michael King, Queenie, he's won it. He's won it before. Is it Brian Marchment? He's won it. He's on my notes here. Peter McAvoy. So I mean, you've got a collection of some of the great amateur golfers and professional golfers over time that have won it. And now I guess it's a really big Wagger event. So I was like, look, final round, they play 36-hole stroke play on the Sunday. There's a cut after Saturday after 36 holes. First round's 18 on the Friday, second 18 is on the Saturday. And as I say, then they go into the 36 hole day. And yeah, that was that. So if I'm honest, I turned up without a huge amount of expectations, thinking, do you know what? I'll walk off a bit of Sunday lunch and watch the golf, and let's see what we've got to look at.
It is amazing though, watching that top flight amateur golf. Obviously, I mean, you know, we were waxing lyrical back in September about our experience of the Walker Cup in St Andrews. And you're kind of seeing a lot of the people who are contending for those spots really at something like the Lytham Trophy, aren't you, really? In that it's just, you know, it is one of the sort of staple events really of certainly the European and the British top level amateurs, and renowned, if I'm not mistaken, for being probably one of the toughest events to play. I certainly know when I was at uni and a couple of friends would go off and play in it, and I think it's probably still the case now, how few people get under par is pretty staggering. I think Matty Jordan smashed the scoring record a few years ago, actually, didn't he, when he went and played and won it. But it's just known for being a really quite brutal test of golf over 4 rounds.
Well, it's so tough because, I mean, the bunkers, I mean, there's so many of them, and they're not big bunkers, the actual sand, but the actual area of the bunker, i.e., if you include the collection zones, is enormous. They're like vortexes. So when you're walking the course and you're watching them drive into these areas, you see the ball land, which you don't really get when you play that golf course. You just sort of see it left, and you sort of, you know, you get up and you're like, oh, I'm in a bunker. How did that happen? You see the ball land and you're thinking that the actual targets within the fairway are microscopic to avoid those bunkers. So it's really, really tough. And you're right. Yeah. I mean, scoring was not great. I mean, I think there was a hand when I turned up before they teed off, there was a couple of guys at 1 under. And the leader was at 4 under par. So there are 4 key characters in this story. So I'll introduce them briefly before we get into it. You've got Jamie Van Wyk. So Jamie is actually a Royal Lytham member. So, you know, that was pretty momentous, I think, for the club to have, you know, a member playing in that event, and he was leading. So he started off in the afternoon, 4 under par. Now it turns out Jamie's working 3 different jobs to keep his amateur golfing career going. So I think he's working. Wow. I think he works behind the bar at like Fairhaven Golf Club, Green Drive, which is another club in Lytham. I think he does some other stuff. Like, this guy works really hard, mega hard on his game, very popular member, clearly an exceptional talent. But then you've also got James Ashfield in there, who played in the Walker Cup last year at St Andrews. And I think, did he beat Summer Hayes, I want to say, in one of his matches? Is that
common? Do they get a lot of Walker Cuppers in there?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was walking the fairways, I was like, I spotted a chap with DR on his back, Stirling University. I was like, with a Walker Cup logo. I mean, powers of deduction were incredible. It's Dean Robertson, the Walker Cup captain. So, you know, sort of.
Did you chat to him? Did you go and give him the?
Yeah, I briefly, I was like stood at the back of the 7th green, and he sort of asked, I was, you know, because they moved the whole of the 7th green back, which I didn't realize. I thought they'd just done a load more shaping and built the dune up, but it turns out they've moved that whole green back, actually, which was quite hard to notice, but should be testament to the quality of the work. And I said, oh, are you out scouting? And he sort of said, you know, bit of St Andrews Trophy, and obviously just looking at people, which was quite interesting. So you've got, I mean, it was quite, when we were there, the leaderboard was basically the top 4, well, 2 Englishmen and 2 Welsh. So James Ashfield is obviously a Welshman from Delamere. And then our third character, who I will introduce, who Dean was following, when me and Tom went and played at Welshpool, the chap behind the bar, his opening gambit was telling us that Tiger Woods had played at Welshpool.
And shot 1 over.
And shot 1 over.
1 under, was it?
Now, you think that's a bit far fetched?
The credibility.
By the way, there was no photos. We were going, really? Tiger Woods has played? Yeah. And there's not a single photo in the clubhouse of him playing. He's like, no, nothing at all. But he has played here, I can assure you.
Yeah. So
in 2001, really?
So immediately, this barman has told me he doesn't play golf, but Tiger Woods has played at Welshpool and shot over par, which is a little over 5,000 yards on the scorecard. I was thinking it's a very strange place for Tiger to come. So everything he said thereafter, it's a lovely bloke, but I just took it with a pinch of salt. And he said to me then, he said, oh, okay, you follow the golf a bit. Have you heard of our young member? He's a really good golfer. And I'm thinking, oh, right, has he won the club championship? He's like, He's like, is it a chap? I said, no. He said, oh, it's a guy called Tommy Bowen. I was like, oh, right. No, I haven't heard of him. And if I'm honest, I didn't give him much more than a second's thought until I looked at the leaderboard yesterday. And I was like, bloody hell, he's a good player, isn't he? And that was who Dean was out. You know, he spent a
Maybe
bit of time
Tiger
watching.
did play at Welsh Ball.
No, it was Woosnam. He was Ian Woosnam that played at
Woozy.
Welsh Ball.
Yeah, it was Woozy that played Welsh Ball.
Yeah, the general manager came out and found us on the 16th tee. He was like, I've just been chatting to the guys inside. They told you Tiger played. I just thought I had to get out here and tell you, no, it's Woozy. We're like, oh yeah, I could get on board with that.
So you've got this Welsh lad, Tommy Bowen, which is interesting. Tomi, strange spelling. And the chap who's playing with is a guy called Will Hopkins. Will, English lad, Kansas State University, Belton Woods. So
do you know why it might be Tomi?
Go on.
Thomas in Welsh is Tomos, Tomos, Tomos. So Tommy would be a natural extension of that. Tommy, Tomi, Tommy.
Yeah, but that would be it. That would be it. So there
These
we
sort
go.
of niche cultural
So those
takes
are
are
our four
exactly what we
characters.
need.
That's exactly what people are dialing in for. Anyway, so Jamie Van White drops a few early doors. So all of a sudden the leaderboard gets pretty compressed. Tommy Bowen's like the guy to watch because I think around the turn he was sort of leading by one. You know, I'm sort of walking around. Anyone that knows Lytham, that stretch of sort of 8, 9, 10, 11 is where it hoops around a little bit. So you can kind of get up on the dune in the middle and you can see it all going on. There's a few groups between Will and Tommy and Jamie and James. So I've sort of followed Tommy and I thought, well, I can always drop back a few holes there. And the scoring wasn't too bad. It's also kept up to date. There's a journalist there called Matt Cooper who I spent a bit of time chatting to on the way around. Great guy, had a lot of fun with him. And if I'm honest, this Will Hopkins he was about 7 off the lead when I first got out on the course on about the 3rd or 4th. So I was thinking, really, it's Tommy, James, and Jamie. Anyway, this is how it unfolds on the back 9. Proper edge of the seat stuff. Jamie, the Lytham guy's got probably 60, 70, 80 raw Lytham members following him around. Like that's really the only spectators. There's a few kicking around in the other groups, but it's mainly Jamie's at the back. Tommy's leading through 11. He's going okay, to be honest with you. And then all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard and you think, okay, Will Hopkins is a couple off the pace, but probably not going to feature. They both had a few looks at birdies on that back 9, but didn't really convert anything. And both went in down 18, finished up 1 under par. So you're thinking that's probably the number. Jamie has gone from dropping a ton of shots on the front 9, makes up a little bit of ground. All of a sudden he's 2 under going down 15. So you're thinking this is a great storyline here. Local member's going to win the Lytham Trophy. Drop shot 15, tough hole, very, very tough 15, and then just misses the green long and right on 16, back right, didn't get up and down. Shoulders have dropped a bit. It's back to even par. You're sort of thinking 17's pretty tough. 18's exceptionally tough. It's going to be pretty impressive to get in on that. However, James Ashfield, who's obviously the famous name, I guess, within the 4 there, having played a Walker Cup, he makes a cracking birdie on 16, puts him to 2 under, makes a dead easy par on 17. Like, hits an iron shot from the middle of the fairway, probably a wedge or something.
It's a tough hole. 17's a really tough hole at Lytham.
He just nuts this drive down there and then just sticks wedge into about 10 feet. I mean, it's in the jaws, this putt. But tap in, got 1 shot lead going down 18. Anything can happen with the drive, as we know. Pulls this drive into the rough on the left-hand side. I'm on the left side of the fairway watching James and just sort of getting ready to take a photo of him hitting it towards the clubhouse. All the other people are watching Jamie, the Lytham member. He gets over the shot. He doesn't quite address the ball or anything. He just sort of walks in towards the shot. He's not really got the club right behind the ball. And I didn't see this, but he just turns to his caddy and says, I think that ball moved.
But so I've talked to you this morning about this, and you're gonna have to put a bit more, colour this in a smidge. So there's no one there apart from you and him, pretty much.
No, there's
maybe one other guy.
3 other guys that would be on the left of me. So sort of James with his back to them, I guess. So there's 4 of us there. There's probably 70 the other side of the fairway.
He's not got club behind ball yet.
No.
He's sort of approaching it. He's thinking about it. He's got club in hand, and he's looked down. Still nowhere near the ball. And then
he's
he thinks
near
it's
the
moved a
ball. I
little
mean, he's
bit.
like he's around
He
the
sort
shot.
of rested
he's
the
sort
club
of like, he's
down
sort of
there.
figuring it out a little bit. Club's down a bit. I wasn't watching like a microscopic. Yeah, I think so, but not like it wasn't like he sort of pushed it right down behind the ball or anything, or he's kind of set up to make a move at this thing, and he just calls it on himself. Referee comes over, this lady, and you're just thinking this is the worst situation now. 100 yards into the green, this guy's going to just flick it on 2-putt. He's going to win. It's like, well, did you cause it to move? Now, I personally think the way James handled this was like exemplary. Called it on himself. That said, he was very stressed about what was going on. Understandably so. It's a very prestigious tournament. So it was almost like, when you don't, the answer, but you just think if you keep asking the same thing, the rule might change somehow. It was kind of like,
no.
Did you cause it to move? And he was like, well, it's probably been stationary 5-10 minutes. So yeah, me being around it probably has. I mean, it's a 1-shot penalty. And it was like, it was disbelief. I mean, it was so unlucky for him.
Was it just sacked?
It was tragic,
you obviously couldn't see it from where you were, Sam, could you?
He was.
Sorry, we're on a fucking lag here, aren't we?
I could see the ball. I mean, I could see the ball, and the lie ended up with, where it moved to. It looked even, it didn't look any better. Not that makes any difference. But
it's not like it's rolled onto the fairway.
It just sort of sat down into the rough a little bit deeper, perhaps. So anyway, gets this penalty. Says, look, it's going to be a 1-shot penalty that you'll have to take on yourself. He gets a little bit stressed. You can see he's animated. Totally calms himself down then in the moment. Hits a really good wedge shot. Puts it into about 10 feet left of the pin. Pin's cut on the right. Sensible shot. Then returns to sort of a little bit of bit of an outburst. But the way he handled the whole situation, I can't stress, was like amazing. It was a very strange thing to be around because no one is expecting that to happen in this event. And then he rolls this putt up, and again, it's just like the one on 17. It could have just as easily fallen in the hole.
That's absolutely savage. So he's bogeyed. He's taken 4 strokes on a par 4, but bogeyed the 18th, which is 72nd hole.
Which puts him in a tie with Tommy Bowen from Welshpool and Will Hopkins.
And then what happens? Is it just a 1-hole playoff, just straight down one?
3 holes, 3-hole playoffs. So these guys have already played 36 at this point. Then they play a further 3-hole playoff. So they play 1, 2, and 18 back. And they're all like,
2 doesn't really finish. 2 doesn't really finish by 18, does it?
It's not far away. It's not too bad actually.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean it's a long hole too. I mean, one, none of them hit great shots into 1, to be fair, but they all made 3 somehow. 2, they all hit great drives. I mean, that you've got to hit it so aggressively with the length these boys are hitting it. Just hit it straight at the railway line. It's like tight on the right.
Yeah.
Opens up a look at it. Will's hit just like a stunning shot in. He was first to play actually. Hit a stunning shot into about 5 foot from about 190 yards.
Wow.
The other 2 have sort of, I think Tommy's made 4. James Ashfield's made 5. He's put it in the front right bunker. So you're thinking, well, maybe his race is run. Will knocks it in and then hits 2 really good shots into 18. And this guy who was 7 shots off the lead when I walked out there had just dug away at it. And if I'm honest, I said to the chap I was walking with, it's like, bloody hell, this guy's like right in it on the 16th. Amazingly, like there's a quote of him saying that he came off the 11th green and that's where they have the 1 scoreboard on the course. And he looked at it and thought, bloody hell, I'm still in with a shout here. Because these guys don't know what they're doing. Which was ironic because I was buying a bottle of water at the halfway hut on 11 at the same time. And he wandered over and jumped the queue and said, sorry, would you mind if I jumped in? I'd like to have a beer and a sausage roll, but I've kind of got to carry on, I think. He's a good guy.
That's brilliant.
So really cool experience.
I'll tell you what's always surprising, in so much as it shouldn't be surprising, but these events are always a great watch. We watched the amateur at Lytham, obviously Walker Cup we did this year, which is much bigger event. for these sort of high-end amateur events, you can get so close to everything. I imagine there was no ropes at all at Lytham.
No, and you say it's a much bigger event, the Amateur Championship. Yes, it is, but it is a big event. It's a jewel in the amateur crown, isn't it? But it's not. The quality of the players there is exceptionally high. Like,
I just mean in terms of spectators more than
it's players, definitely, and it's a bit more of a spectacle as well, isn't it? Sky will cover the last couple of rounds of that. It's match play as well, and this is a stroke play event, so it was a really good experience. Load of Lytham members out there. Very, very nice afternoon. Course was as it is every time I've seen it.
Brilliant, I guess, to see Lytham as well.
Yeah,
because it's obviously such a historic and brilliant test of golf, and yet we see it so infrequently. It had an amateur a couple of years ago. There's talk about an Open going back there, but it's just something that I imagine would be a great watch, and it's brilliant that you can go, and you're obviously much more familiar with it than either of us, neither Tom or I, Sam. But I guess it makes you want to go out and play that track and sort of see how you fare, because it's a demanding test, isn't it, off those back tees with how heavily bunkered it is. Yeah,
if you buy into the discussion on the Open or whatever, I think some of it is like the amount of land they have access to. The course is surrounded by houses, isn't it? So they have the sort of wee course off into the, I guess towards Lytham, really, as it would be. And there's not, it maybe isn't blessed with the same amount of land that George's is, that, so they can get more people in. I think the quality of the golf course, though, is like, it's nails. Like, it's a really good test, and they can tip it out really hard. They can make it. They put some filthy pins in there. They put this pin on back left of 3 that was like, it was a close one. Who had the worst pin location of the weekend? Was it the 5th at Blackwell or the 3rd at Lytham? And I'd still give it to the 5th at Blackwell, but it was a close run. So it's a proper test.
Lytham, I think, is some of the finest bunkering in Britain. It's just, I've not seen it since they moved the green on. Was it 3 they moved the green?
Seventh they moved the green.
7. I've not seen it since.
Par 5 with all the bunkers downside.
Those. Oh yeah, it's a good hole. That it's got a massive dune on the right. So it's still got that.
Yeah, a little. It's softened a little. Maybe. Maybe that's because they moved it back. I didn't know it had moved until I was told later. I just saw that they'd done some work around the surrounds.
I think the first 10 holes at Lytham are like, it's like just a crescendo of amazingness. You're like, bloody hell, that was a good hole. Bloody hell, that was a good hole. And it just like keeps getting better and better. It's just like, oof,
it's really, really good. And I think the bunkering just sets it apart, to be fair. Like, it's those collection zones with the bunkers. But good event. Last year Frank Kennedy won it with Fanny on the bag, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
he went and turned pro after I think he got knocked out in the semi of the amateur. And then took to Instagram within about 15 minutes then to say he was turning pro, and he's got everything out of the amateur game.
That was before, just before the Walker Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't fancy that. John Goff the year before that, obviously, very decorated amateur.
He was a Walker Cup at St Andrews as well.
Yeah, didn't he march Gordon Sargent in from about the 12th green or something?
No, it's Dunlap. Nick Dunlap.
I think
It's Nick Dunlap.
Dunlap.
And that's the second. It's very unlike you to make an error like that on the singles from the Walker Cup, Sammy. But earlier when you said Ashfield walked Preston Summerhaze off, I think that was again, that was the other way around. But it's the type of knowledge.
It's so niche. He can just say words and know that 95% of people are not going to pick him up on it. So it's all
you always got to remember, in the Valley of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Man with no decent internet connection, the man with a stable Wi-Fi certainly is king. Because I'm struggling a bit here, aren't I?
That couldn't be better timed. That actually, that was just such a bad internet.
Well, I'm looking forward to our third segment, which is Bruce going to take us through Nelly Corder's performance of late. Strap in for a bad Wi-Fi connection here.
It was a neat little segue because I believe at the AIG at Walton Heath last August, there was an announcement that Lytham is going to get a Women's Open in a few years' time.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not a few years' time.
26.
Yeah, I think 2 and a few. We can
Yeah,
can meet. We
Oh
can
no,
meet on
there's
that.
no debate.
meet
I
in
was
the
just,
middle.
I think it was 26. Someone mentioned
Yeah.
it yesterday.
Yeah, so I think it will be nice. Obviously, to your point earlier, Sam, whether it gets an Open remains to be seen, and you'd like to think that the course doesn't have to be changed too much, or they don't have to interfere with what is already a stunning layout to get there. But it will be nice that it'll be on our screens again in 2026 with the AIG Women's Open, which is a nice little segue into what Mills you mentioned earlier. Feel like it's a little bit after the event on this, but given that we haven't had a tour recap pod in a few weeks, it would be remiss of us not to mention the absolutely outstanding achievements of Nelly Korda over the last few weeks or so, notching 5 straight wins on the LPGA Tour, being the first person to do that since, I want to say, Annika Sorenstam in 2004-5. I think Nancy Lopez had done it back in the 70s, but 5 in a row is absolutely worthy of mention on this
It's
on
so
this
hard
podcast,
to
at the
win
very
one.
least.
It's so people have no understanding how hard it is to win one event. Even just winning the guy Bigwood at Blackwell on Saturday is tough. To do 5 of that on the spin would be tough. This is 5 4-round 72-hole stroke play events with the best players in the world. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, especially finishing on a major as well. If you've already won 4, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, can she make it 5 in a row? It's the Chevron, which is a major. That is pretty stunning to back it up in that fashion. So yeah, just looking now, LPGA Drive On, Fir Hills, Ford Championship, the T-Mobile Match Play, and the Chevron. So there you go, 5 straight wins.
Even better that one of them's the match play as well. I think that's even more remarkable in some ways.
Yeah, because you can actually come up against a bit of a buzzsaw who just gets hot.
Having said that, we were actually in Royal St George's, Sam and I were in Royal St George's, and we were watching the Chevron on TV. And this is nothing taken away from the Nelly Korda thing whatsoever. But we were trying to watch that on Sky. Sam, you'd watched a little bit more of it than me because I think I'd fannied about outside for a bit. She had to endure. It's actually even more remarkable what she achieved because she had to endure a painfully slow round of golf, didn't she, that last day?
6,010, 6,020 or something, which is mind-bendingly slow. Like, I mean, so I think I've since spoke to a couple of people about this, and my views softened a little bit. Like at the time, I was like, this is just unacceptable because it does kind of take away from it, I think, a little bit. I think if you are a girl who sort of hears about that storyline, who's maybe not into golf, and you slow it down to a glacial pace, you make it quite inaccessible then to get into because it's not fast paced. Back to Lytham Trophy in that playoff, those 3 lads played those 3 holes at a very quick clip. Like they didn't muck around at all. So it's engaging. And I think there's an element of slow plays, kind of a bit of a blight on it, particularly if you're trying to bring people into the game a little bit. However, I think a lot of this was also down to the coverage. So I'm going to say it's NBC. I might have the wrong one here, but I'm pretty sure they've just basically not invested in their own broadcasting capabilities for that event. So they're working from like 8 fixed camera positions on the course. So when you watch it, it's a bit like when you flick on the red button and you get Amen Corner. When you do that at the Masters and you just see them ambling down the fairway to go to their next shot. They're not cutting to anything else. So the perception of the viewer then is that it's like, oh, this is chronically slow, which at 6,020 it is still really slow. Like there's no getting away from that.
Newsflash.
But it also makes it look painfully slow, in the process. So
I wonder what's causing that though. Like, why are they taking 6,010?
Yeah, there's a lot of coverage of her just like sitting next to her bag, like on the floor, eating like Mars bars and stuff. It wasn't quite Mars bars, but I think it was energy bars or whatever. She was sat there just like literally bored stiff. And I could kind of get on board with what you're saying. Why is it, Bruce? I think from what we kind of glean from it, there's a lot of taking time over short putts. I think is putts that people wouldn't take time over usually. And I suppose it's all for, it's a major. It's all for cash, isn't it? Like, that's significantly more, like a bit larger purse than anything in the month before. That, the official money for Nelly Corda on the Chevron was $1.2 million. The 4 wins that she'd notched up previous to that didn't even add up to 1.2 million. So, or just about added up to 1.2 million, maybe. In fact, no, they don't. So, you can see why people are taking it more seriously. Is that an excuse?
That is a staggering statistic there, Mills, about the value of the prize fund. I mean, I know that obviously, it's usually unequal between the men's and the women's game, but Scheffler has taken home $16 million for winning 4 events out of 5. And the fact that Nelly's, what did you say there? Like not even 3 million from winning 5.
Yeah, well, 2.4. The drive on, which is the first in the streak, she got $262,500. Fir Hills, $300,000. Ford Championship, $337,500. T-Mobile Match Play, $300,000. And then the Chevron, 1.2.
I mean, that is, objectively speaking, that's good money. That is good money. It just pales compared to the men's game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it is good money. It is good money if you win, It's
the tail that you don't
imagine
see
if you're
then.
just, if you're just making the cut, I imagine it's quite a tough living. Just while we're at it, final thing from me and money, only because the page I'm looking at has Nelly's 5 wins, but it also has her sixth event that she did this year, which was the Hilton Grand, where she finished T16th. T16th, $24,000.
Yeah, it tails off, doesn't it? Rapidly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
especially if you're traveling around if you're traveling around, taking an entourage, taking a coach, taking a mental coach, like you say, physio, nutritionist, it gets pretty expensive. It's pretty expensive pretty quickly, isn't it?
It's freakishly competitive as well. I mean, without drawing back to it too much, but when I was at the Lytham Trophy on yesterday, the chap I was walking with, Matt Cooper, his sort of key edge is actually covering amateur golf, but also the women's game. So he was really, really clued up on this and spends a lot of time with the players, talks to them a lot. And he just made a couple of interesting observations, but part of it, I think some of that slow play stuff that we touched on as well. They're playing a slightly different game in some respects. They're much more tuned in with things like the psychological aspects of the game. More, I think, per player, there's more of them have a golf psychologist that they work with closely and intimately on like their game, for example. I feel like there's more, maybe, I don't know if some of that is perhaps a product of sort of like maybe how strokes games work in that sort of edge of the tournament, but there seems like inside 20 yards, and even in those shorter putts like Tom said, I think that's a really kind of like, it's a noticeable difference in terms of the time taken over the shot.
How deliberate the routine is.
Yeah.
It's a key part of it. It would be, I don't know if I'm just going to set us a load of homework that none of us want to do, but I feel like there is actually some mileage in just looking into the average like time of a round in major championships, just across the men's game, women's game, like different majors, and see how it all sort of stacks up just generally. Because you make a very good point there earlier, Sam, about NBC and actually the fact that they're showing they have far fewer fixed camera spots, and so they're showing players walking down the fairways and waiting on tee boxes. I have no idea how long Scheffler's last round at the Masters took. Couldn't tell you if it was 4, 4.5, or 6. I know it probably wasn't 6, but I couldn't tell you whether it was 4.5 or 5.5. Really,
I'd be surprised if it was shy of 5. I'd be surprised if it was shy of 5.
I think there'd be something in that. Just having a look at some of these big events on both the men's game and the women's game, and just sort of, because the data has got to be out there, whether it's sports marketing surveys or another provider who's putting the information out, and just seeing like how big an issue is the slow play throughout the game. I'd be staggered to find out.
I mean, Bruce touched on it, those final rounds. I think a couple of weeks ago, I did look at it. I was at just curiosity, and I was probably searching for like slowest rounds or something. It's not a million miles off. Like, there are stories of very, very slow major championship rounds. What I'll say here is the final rounds were played in 3 balls as well, which has a bearing. That has a massive bearing, I think, So
Yeah.
I think it's easy to jump on it and just be like, just completely bag it. The time taken is unacceptable. I actually think there is an ability for it to become a bit more like you. What? What you chuckling?
Time taken.
I think that's
unacceptable.
It is
I mean,
but I think that's
it's not
that's
a
a
good
sweeping
example to
statement
set.
for all of professional golf, though. It's not just
Golf,
all
period.
professional golf takes.
Well,
Yeah,
St
it just
Andrews,
takes
though,
too slow.
no, I think like to try and add some nuance, which is obviously like, what we like to think of ourselves as being specialists at. Like the Open at St Andrews a couple of years ago is an almost unique case there because of how many crossed fairways there are, or, the, with the ball going so far and being really baked out, and how much that course crisscrosses. It's natural that you are going to have much slower rounds of golf, and getting into 6 hours. I mean, I'm not going to say it's forgivable because it is absolutely heinous to take 6 hours out on one round of golf. But you can see how if the average round is like 5 hours and 15, it takes you 45 minutes longer because you've got all this crisscrossing going on at a course like the old course.
Yeah, conditions, course setup, all that sort of stuff have a huge bearing, don't they?
I feel like we've moved away from
Nelly's-
congratulating
yeah.
Nelly Corda.
I think that's the
on her
danger with it, though, isn't
five
it?
wins in a row.
Yeah, I mean, look, we should bring it back to this. It's genuinely remarkable. I'm a big Nelly Corda fan as well. I mean, she's obviously got one of the greatest swings.
I don't agree.
And you don't agree?
What?
I
No.
absolutely love watching her hit balls, but I think she's like, I don't know how to best describe it, other than the fact that she just looks exceptionally elegant on the golf course. Elegant is the only word I can use to
Bruce,
describe that.
Bruce, you're going to have to back this up, mate.
Yeah. What's wrong with the swing?
Well, it's a nice swing. I don't think it's like one of my favorite swings, I'd say, on the LPGA Tour.
Really?
No, I don't know if I would say that. It's quite, it's rhythmical, and there's great poise with it. I think, it's like it's just quite measured in a way. Whereas if you look at someone like Lynn Grant, for example, or like a Maya Stark, I feel like there's just a bit more sort of like rip through it and just sort of raw kind of power in that. But I'm trying really hard not to go into a technical rabbit hole because I know you're just not interested in it, and
no, I know.
most of the listeners aren't either.
I'll indulge it.
Well, I think she tends to get a little bit more laid off at the top, and then you'll see this slight little steepening as she starts down, rather than shallowing it out as a lot of great players would typically do. And so she hits the ball with probably straighter arms than you might typically see of someone, which is fine. It's all quite nice.
This is coming from a guy who's got out of his swing vortex that you were in for a little while. Yeah.
Well, you can still remark it in
others.
others.
No longer in it.
Still remarking it in others, but it's just like, it's not. It's a very I do like it. I do like a golf swing, but I'm just saying, if you were looking at someone who, like, I don't know, is just a master of efficiency and just absolute, like, ripping through it and flushing it, I think someone like Emily Pedersen or a Lynn Grant or a Maya Stark. I'm just naming Europeans, so maybe I'm shockingly partisan. But I agree with you, Sam. There is a grace and an elegance and a just.
What about Brooke
polish
Henderson? Brooke Henderson's swing is out of this
she
world.
rips it.
She's a contender for slowest player in the game, though, I'd say.
What?
Brooke Henderson.
This could be like Bruce's argument, though. Do you remember Bruce used to go, "Yeah, but I might be slow, but I'll take fewer shots than you, so it's fine."
So, I mean, look, there's no.
I don't think I ever said that. That's one of the most arrogant.
You did.
You did.
Bruce is looking at positions in the swing, and I think I just look at it and just go. I think when you just look at Nelly Corda's swing, the only way I can describe it is just elegant. It's just. Look, I'm curious. How much of this is baked into family genetics as well, with sporting ability, and how much of it do you think is just nurture of having been around with really, really good athletes?
I think it's more the latter, if you were to ask me. I mean, her brother being a great tennis player, her father obviously, and then her sister being a fantastic golfer.
And her mum. I think her mum was a really good tennis player as well, wasn't she?
I wasn't aware of that, but maybe you could well be right. I think, I mean, she's so competitive as well, though. She accepts it. Like, she really does acknowledge it. And I think that kind of distinction between her and Scheffler at the moment is quite interesting. And like, they're obviously both really competitive people, but like Nelly Corda seems to just be very outwardly like, no, I just like really, really, really want to go and win. And it's interesting because obviously she had quite a tricky 2023. She had like a blood clot in her arm and sort of fairly middling 2023. Didn't do much by her high standards. And then obviously she's come out in 2024 and blitzed it, and sort of says you can see it's like really kind of how driven she is to kind of just keep on winning. Whereas with Scheffler, it's very much like, oh, I am competitive, but I sort of have to calm myself down. And obviously his faith is a very important part of that. And you know, that comes through very strongly in his press conferences where he sort of says, well, you know, I really wanted to win, but my buddies told me that victory's secure on the cross because, you know, of my connection with Jesus and all that sort of stuff. It's just quite an interesting comparison between the two best players in the game at the moment.
I think some of that is external. I think so much of that is probably how they project externally.
Yeah,
would be my take. That I think, you know, she's in a space there where she's like, that's, you know, the persona I'm going to adopt here is one of ruthlessness and like I want to go and win. And Scheffler, I don't think the two are like, you know, you can have both, can't you? They're not mutually exclusive. Like he can have faith and still really want to win. He doesn't have to project that he really wants to win. It doesn't mean that he doesn't feel that, you know. I suspect they both have like absolute killer instincts. I mean, like you say, to stand on that the 17th par 3 and just hit the flagstick, you know, it's remarkable stuff. Like you just got to have an absolute killer instinct. I mean, what do you think, Tom? I honestly don't know. I suppose my gut feel would tell me it would be nurture over nature, but it's that age-old debate, right?
I think it's nurture. I think that I think there's an element of genetics to a lot of this stuff, but I do think just there's something that goes on in people's brains, like, you know, Tiger Woods being an absolute killer. I don't think that was bred into him. I think he just kind of, there was something that happened in his upbringing where he was like, it was like, this is it. I'm gonna fucking win. This is it. This is just what's gonna happen.
His dad was a Green Beret. I mean, that's where that came from. I think on the Tiger side of things, it was just like that military upbringing and like playing at the Navy golf course and being surrounded by guys who were just, you know, come from sort of setting the armed forces. You know?
Yeah, and I think you know, it's all upbringing though, isn't it? And I think, can you imagine if you're in a family where you've got a brother who's an elite tennis player, and then your sister plays golf, and then you're suddenly competitive with your sister, and both of you are playing golf, and it's all just sort of kind of hyper competitive environment, like who's going to be the best sibling. And yeah, you know, there is propensity to kind of fall away in that, but I think as a parent, I'd love to know the answer. You know, I'd love to know, how do I get my own children to be these absolute dogs that's going to go out there and just destroy everything? But unfortunately, I don't have.
It's got to be though, hasn't it? Because you go through a point in your golf career where you go from being really, really good as a junior and an amateur, and you go off to college, and you're really, really good at the sport, and then you kind of go into a sort of peer group where you're like, oh Christ, everyone's really good. Having a set of parents that were like, yeah, you can be world class at doing this by doing X, Y, and Z, and having somebody been probably making it feel more attainable because it's like, oh yeah, Dad was a world class athlete. You know,
that's why I find Scheffler so strange, though. That's why I don't find Scheffler strange, but I just find him such a kind of breath of fresh air, or just like a really welcome example, because he is obviously unbelievably talented and is going through like an almost unprecedented run in the game. And yet it doesn't seem like he's had to compromise, you know, on a personal level, just like emotionally, and shut off parts of his brain that are probably needed to be a fairly decent human, in the way that, you know, I think it's fair to say, if you look at Tiger, taking that military sort of like, I don't know, kill house mentality, as Steve Elkington calls it, to his professional game clearly made him a prodigious winner, but it comes at a huge personal and emotional cost as well, I think. Scheffler, to me, and I'm sure Nelly Corda's the same, maybe we just get better at this as we kind of learn more about how the human brain works. You know, to be able to have that killer instinct on the golf course, but to switch it off and actually be a normal person and you know, interact normally with other human beings away from the golf course, I think is so rare, you know.
Here's one for nature versus nurture for you. And this is, we could have some audience participation here, which I'm always a huge fan of here at Cookie Jar. And if anyone's made it this far, I'll be amazed anyway. But can you think, so this is one that there's a counter argument to nature, right? Can you think of any child of an elite sportsman that has gone on to be a better sportsman?
Oh, hang on. This is where the listener has a massive advantage here.
Or woman.
They can
Sportsman, just sports person. So I'm not talking about like, oh yeah, because Messi was better than his dad. I'm talking about someone who was top of the tree and then they had children. Are there any children you can think of in any that have even got anywhere close?
Oh, I've got you. I'm absolutely going to eviscerate you here. I'm going to eviscerate you here.
There will be.
Old
Yeah,
Tom
but
Morris.
the fact that we're even scrabbling around for one. young Tom Morris.
Old Tom Morris.
Okay, young Tom Morris. Okay, so you got one, but like, there's not many. I'm not hugely into football, but you know, Frank Lampard's dad was a very good footballer. Owen Farrell, very good example, and his dad was arguably better than Owen Farrell.
Was it?
Different disciplines.
Andy Farrell's a better player.
Andy Farrell was an absolute legend in rugby league. Legend. Did everything. He was brilliant. Captain of GB. He was a wonderful rugby league player.
It's interesting that when you look at, like, I suppose sport, other, you know,
Ryan
would
Fox
be like Casper Schmeichel, wouldn't it? You know, like,
yeah, Ryan Fox is a great golfer, but his dad was one of the greatest rugby players to ever live. Grant Fox, New Zealand fly half. So and it's a different sport as well, but there's not many. Anyway, to go back to the nature thing, there are not many children that of elite sportsmen that are also elite sportsmen.
But I think you're looking at such a small sample size.
There will be a really obvious one.
I think because you're looking at such a small sample of like what is defining what is elite. Okay, is it an international level? Is it winning the equivalent of majors, Grand Slams? You know, okay, that's hard to define. But if you do succeed in defining it, you're looking at such a small number of people. And you have such vanishingly small odds of getting to that level in the first place. I don't know if the question is to look at those person's kids, offspring, and say, okay, well, they didn't succeed to the same level, so therefore it must be more about nurture than nature. Because maybe their kids are exceptionally talented footballers, rugby players, golfers. They're just not quite good enough to go and be world class. So, you know, Charlie Woods, I think he's probably the obvious example here at the moment. He's probably not going to go on and win 15 majors, but he might be a really good +4 handicap. Yeah,
I'm sure he will be. But like, I suppose and I completely understand that the sample is very small. But if nature's a thing, then these people all start with a head start, don't they? And if they still can't do it, then it must be a nurture thing. We've gone so off topic.
We've gone so far off topic.
Wildly off topic.
It is tangential at best. You've lost me now for the remainder of this podcast until I can think of an elite sportsman that's outperformed the relative
I think I can pull it back.
Of their parents.
Can I just try?
Young Tom Morris was great, by the way.
Bring us back, Bruce.
If I could try and pull this back. So we did obviously, you know, sort of want to try and bring this pod to a close, talking about how fantastic Nelly Corda's achievements have been. Sam, you mentioned her graceful elegance. Totally agree. I think something that did dawn on me actually was, I don't know if you've been watching the latest PGA Tour event this weekend, being back home, obviously preparing hard for the guy Bigwood Salver, and trying to, you know, get some inspiration. I flicked on the golf. Matt Wallace, my fellow countryman, good to see him in the lead. Did you see what he was wearing on Saturday afternoon?
No, I have not seen any
Hopefully-
golf last.
Okay.
Hopefully he was wearing clothes.
So that is not the graceful elegance that we've just been talking about with Nelly Corder and how composed she's been. I mean, some of the outfits that guy is sporting as he tries to go and carve a career on the PGA Tour, which he's doing a brilliant job of. Obviously, there's a few DP World Tour guys going over there at the moment. That is not graceful elegance. So there you go. That was a half-hearted
He's
attempt
Jay
to try and bring it.
Lindenberg, isn't he?
bring it
Matt
back.
Wallace.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Jay Lindenberg should get it so spot off with some of these
It's
with
so
some of these
bad.
outfit
It's so
choices.
bad.
But it's just
But the
unbelievable.
thing is,
isn't
they
it?
always
Where
get
you look-
headlines,
look
don't
like
they?
the-
It's like, you know,
Yeah,
they
it's
always
just
get the
compared to,
headlines. It's like any publicity is good publicity. Like it's
It's
just,
just dreadful.
it's like they stick Hovland. I mean, they must literally sit there and think, what are we going to put him in now? I mean, it's truly
Yeah.
awful gear.
Well,
Anyway.
Hovland actually said in an interview, didn't he? He was like, someone said about what are you going to be wearing next? He's like, I don't care. They pay me. I'll wear whatever they pay me to wear.
Yeah, it's just a
It's-
bit too close to the bone, that, isn't it? But yeah, the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, it was decent sort of viewing in parts, but hard to sustain, I find. Just looking at guys go and shoot 64, 63 back-to-back days on a course with massive greens and people wearing outfits like Matt Wallace, it just it's a bit of a far cry from some of the golf we've seen in recent weeks. Anyway,
Yeah, tough viewing. I'm just waiting for Valhalla now.
And a great segue as well to close. You mentioned CJ Cup. The CJ Spring Meeting has been announced. If you are on our newsletter database, you will have received an invite for the Addington on the 31st of May. I mean, it's pretty full, but if people have a burning desire to attend, I'm sure we can accommodate. So you can get in touch with us on contact@cookiejargolf.com, where presumably it'll be me manning the emails. But
No, it will almost certainly be in their junk mail. Just if you haven't got
we'll
it
be
yet.
retrieving them. No, but if people get in touch with us on email, if they do want to attend the 31st of May at the Addington, that is going to be a great event. And it'll be the first time we'll be able to use the trophy that was so lovingly created last December, which, Bruce, you need to repatriate to the office, by the way.
sorry, yeah, I need to go and pick that out. Yeah, it's been kept.
Smelling of all woodly wood.
It's a truly
Yeah.
niche thing, isn't it? It's exceptional. The fact that Ross took the time to make a trophy out of the same wood for the all woodly locker rooms, which smell of vomit, is.
Ross is an avid listener, and I went for a few weeks of kept talking about how great Nicky was in. So Ross, if you are listening, thanks for the trophy, and hopefully you're still in great nick. But let's round it out on that, shall we, gentlemen? So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us whittle on, and both of you, until next time.
Adios.
Adios.
Watch this.